Was Black Lives Matter a movement for blacks, or was it a movement for LBGTQ?
Great question. First of all, the original Black Lives Matter movement coming out of Ferguson, Missouri, was a grassroots movement. I actually had a opportunity to speak with some of the brothers who gave birth to the original Black Lives Matter movement in the immediate aftermath of Michael Brown's police assassination. A group of opportunistic lesbian sisters seized upon that catchphrase because it had become so popular that they say, hey, let's just make the organization Black Lives Matter. And that's exactly what they did. And as opposed to being a radical grassroots organization to oppose police genocide, they actually use that as a cover to advocate same-sex relationships. If you go to the website of Black Lives Matter, and I haven't been there in about a year, so I don't know if they changed the language, but I do know in the very beginning, they made it absolutely clear that their purpose was to make it absolutely acceptable and safe for the promotion and promulgation of same-sex relationships. They were about the transgenders, the bisexuals, the homosexuals, and the lesbians. Very little attention was paid by them on their website or even in their history to problems that affect black people. It was all about advancing the LGBTQ agenda under the disguise and under the protection of Black Lives Matter.
They used the black face. They used George Floyd's face.
They used the black face and the black fist and the black flag to push the rainbow agenda.
That's right. And not only did that happen, what's going on with these? I'm seeing a lot of socialists getting involved in black ideas. People pushing the socialist agenda.
Because they need to recruit Negroes. The socialists and the communist movement, they have always recruited black folks. You know, they recruited W.E.B. Du Bois. They recruited A. Philip Randolph. They recruited the great Paul Robeson. A lot of our great minds got sucked into that socialist movement at one time or another because we thought the socialist white man was less a racist than the capitalist white man, until the most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, whose birthday we celebrated Tuesday night in Harlem with myself as keynote, speaking of how Garvey was the only black leader in modern history who knew that the socialist was still a white supremacist. Just because he was an anti-capitalist doesn't mean he was an anti-racist. And so you have a lot of brothers and sisters being swept into domestic socialism as well as Pan-African socialism. Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture, who's a hero of mine, one of the last of the great Pan-Africanists, but I do differ with him, pushing a Marxist-Leninist approach to Pan-Africanism as opposed to an honorable Marcus Garvey approach to Pan-Africanism. So we have had a history of black people being sucked into that socialist umbrella, thinking they're going to get opportunities, only to find out later that the white man is a white man, whether he's a socialist or a capitalist.
And they all end up in the same situation in the end.
They all end up in the same situation. White folks will use you. They will enable you. They will exploit you. They will make you think they're going to do something significant for you. And once they're done using you, they drop you off. I don't care if it's a white organization, a white politician, or a white woman.
Do you think black people should continue to be democratic?
Absolutely not. We shouldn't belong to any white institutions. Politically, economic, socially, intellectual. But
so when I say this, look, hold on. DrUmarJohnson is saying this, and I say this too, but y'all hearing it from his mouth. We have never had a conversation prior to this show. So continue to educate, brother.
We have began our crossover from the Republican Party to the Democrat Party during the New Deal, SDR. So you're looking at 90 years, almost a century. We have been loyal to the Democratic Party for almost a century. May I ask why? May I ask what economic concession have you received to justify your loyalty? What political concession have you received to justify your loyalty? You've been loyal to a white racist political party for 100 years, and you have nothing to show for it. In Black America, we suffer from a five-headed dragon that racism has dropped off in our community. That five-headed dragon is miseducation, mass incarceration, gentrification, economic marginalization, and police assassination. Those are the 5 major problems in Black America. What has Joe Biden done to address any of them? What has Barack Obama done to address any of them? What has Bill Clinton done to address any of them? What has Lyndon Baines Johnson or Jimmy Carter done to address any of them? They have done absolutely nothing. So I'm neither an advocate for belonging to the Republicans or the Democrats. We need to quit both parties, abandon both slave ships, get off both political plantations, and build an independent Black political union.
Brother Umar Johnson, can you tell us how you feel about the Black community involving the Black church? What's your ideal on that?
The Black church has failed us, completely failed us in the 21st century. One of the greatest moves of white supremacy in modern time was President George W. Bush in the year 2000 coming up with the faith-based initiative plan. When he came up with a loophole in the law that allows the federal government to give grants to churches, that was a very effective Machiavellian move. Once he made Black churches eligible for federal funding, you haven't seen a single Black church assume the vanguard position to address any of the major problems Black people suffer from the miseducation and mass incarceration and gentrification and economic marginalization of the police assassinations. You don't have a Black church in any city that you can name is at the forefront. I'm not talking about showing up to a meeting. I'm not talking about walking at the back of at the protest. I mean at the forefront. Showing up and showing out. Not a single Black church in America is tackling any of our major problems, and that goes back to Y2K, the year 2000, with the faith-based initiative. The other push to LGBTQ on our public school children. The Black churches were already in a, they were stuck between a rock and a hard place, because traditionally most Black churches never endorsed same-sex relationships. But once they started taking that money, you've been getting this money for 8 years. And now you get Barack Obama pushing this on our hand. If you look at where we've been from Dr. King to now, every decade they hit us with a weapon. In the 70s they hit us with the economic castration of the Black male, the deindustrialization of the inner cities. 1980s they hit us with the crack. The 1990s, Bill Clinton crime bill. 2000s, faith-based initiative and the national gentrification movement. And then in 2010, Barack Obama with the homosexual agenda.
What is going on in Haiti?
Haiti, America needs Haiti, because Haiti's geopolitical position gives America the opportunity to spy on Cuba a whole lot better. See, Cuba is Haiti's closest island. If it's not the closest, it's one of the closest. The Cubans and the Haitians, although they don't really have a relationship because the light-skinned supremacy of our Africoid Haitian brothers and sisters precludes them from building a strong political relationship with our Haitian brothers and sisters. But if America can take over Haiti, then they believe they can also take over Cuba, and they are also close enough to all the other islands to monitor their behavior, which is important because China is making inroads in the Caribbean islands, and America cannot afford for China to take Haiti. America cannot afford for China to take Cuba. So this new Cold War between America and China has America very anxious and very apprehensive. And so one of the reasons she got to lay hold to Haiti is to be able to monitor Cuba and to turn back the red threat of the Chinese menace.